Back on the Boulevard Sunday, March 31st. As always, here to prove to you there is no such thing as football season. We are presented by the Believe Network tonight. A wild UFL kickoff weekend that, frankly, left me shocked from start to finish. The Clash of Champions, Birmingham, putting the XFL side and the rest of the league on notice that they are for real. If there was any doubts about coming into this merge, Birmingham looked pretty solid in the second half of that game. We had the absolute shocker, upset, the Motor City Miracle this weekend that ended in a 64-yard game-winning field goal for Michigan and the home Panthers. The next one with DC, we'll get into more of that. Still not sure how I feel. 1 week into the Defenders' season that was supposed to be a revenge campaign and still can be. I'm not waving the white flag yet, Zook. I'm not giving up yet, but certainly not a good sign for the Defenders in week one as Wade Phillips and the San Antonio Brahmas roll out Chase Garbers and an excellent defense to give their fans a home win. And we end it with Memphis surviving a game that looked like it was in hand, but the Houston Roughnecks rally to make it close in one possession at the end, but ultimately the turnovers kill them. If you're with us, we are live reacting to UFL kickoff weekend tonight. We're on YouTube. Drop us a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. We're coming to you live on Twitter and X. Drop us a chat in there. We're on Facebook as well. And I think without further ado, Zook, it's time to get into some kickoff weekend highlights. Let's go in chronological order. We'll start it with the Clash of Champions in Choctaw Stadium. Matt Corral for the Birmingham Stallions. Luis Perez for the Arlington Renegades. XFL versus USFL. Great field position for Arlington on drive one, but it's Carlos Davis getting home to Perez. Knocks the ball out. Arm not going forward. Mark Gilbert scoops that one up. On the very next drive for Birmingham, Corral throwing a pick right off the shoulder. Deon Cain into the hands of Darren Evans. So the teams trade turnovers. Perez on third down. Gonna find Deontay Burnett. We talked a lot about him, the dispersal draft selection. Renegades get the first points in UFL history. Taylor Russolino on the board makes it 3-0. Corral, late first quarter. Huge pickup there on third down, and then doing it with his legs. If you know Matt Corral in his Ole Miss days, he likes to run, and he doesn't slide. He'll take you head on. Chris Blewett ties it up at 3 with a 27-yard field goal. Points at a minimum. Defense is looking good through the first half until this. Perez, Isaiah Winstead, the ECU Pirate down the seam, gets the booty. Lindsey Scott Jr. rolling out for the two-point conversion. Wanted to see more of Scott, but we didn't get to in the second half, and you'll see why. Arlington was playing from behind. But it was a two-quarterback run for Birmingham, who rolled out Adrian Martinez. Nice little first down pickup there. I remember Martinez from Nebraska and Kansas State. Wasn't looking too good as he tosses a pick on the pass play. Arlington led by 8 at that point. Birmingham not giving up, though. Martinez all the way to midfield. He would go out with an injury, bringing Corral back in. This is a huge decision to go for it on 4th and 1 from the plus 43. Tick, tick, clock running out. Matt Corral going to drop back. Double move from Deon Cain. Gets open down the sideline for the touchdown. And, folks, that was the turning point that the Stallions needed. What a dot from Corral to Cain, who burns the defense. And, guys, that was exactly what the doctor ordered for Birmingham to dominate this second half. Ricky Person Jr. on a swing pass in the third. They roll out one of my favorites, the T formation. Person gets into the end zone. Birmingham extends the lead into the third quarter. Arlington answered with a field goal, and it was Corral picking up third down yardage all day. This one to Benjamin Victor. CJ Marable untouched. Birmingham going to go up 2 scores in this one. Perez trying to rally. missed a few throws. This was one of them. Mark Gilbert versus Javonte Payton on a 50-50 ball that should not have been because Payton was about 10 yards behind the defense. Birmingham, that defense looking strong. Corral making plays. And that was all she wrote in the Clash of Champions. The Stallions win. They cover. They went on a 24-3 scoring run over the final 31 minutes of this game. They went 8 for 12 on third down. Not the most impressive stat line from Corral, but he does finish with over 200 yards passing. Mark Gilbert with an interception and a fumble recovery. For the home side, the Renegades just 59 rush yards. Back to their woes last year at 3.3 yards per carry. Guys, they only had the ball for 3 minutes in the fourth quarter. They go to St. Louis next week. Birmingham's 1-0. They will head to Ford Field. The final, Stallions 27, Renegades 14. Our Saturday doubleheader took us to Ford Field where the Lions just had some success. Panthers were looking to keep that going with Breland Speaks. Big sack of A.J. McCarron on the first drive. Gave it back to E.J. Perry. He turns it over. Mike Rose on the interception. Defense was the theme in Saturday's games early on. First quarter, 4 minutes to go. Kai Nakua getting the sack of McCarron. We told you, Michigan for real in that front seven. Secondary pretty good as well. Into the second quarter now, E.J. Perry finding Devin Gray. Splits the seam. Gray running down the sideline, getting inside the 5, setting Michigan up here. E.J. Perry looking for a receiver, but can't find him. Instead, bounces into the hands of Quinterio Cole. Just a bizarre interception. Check this one out. Perry trying to thread the needle, bounces off a kneecap, and Cole just lands right in the breadbasket. We're deadlocked scoreless until a field goal from 36 yards out put St. Louis up at the first half buzzer. And if you had the under, you were liking how things were shaping up. In the third quarter now, E.J. Perry to Cole Hicatini. Deep into St. Louis territory there. Good start to the third quarter for Perry and co. Nice little QB draw to score from a few yards out. And Michigan had their first touchdown of the 2024 UFL season. A.J. McCarron trying to answer. Jake Sutherland into the red zone. St. Louis trying to take the lead here. Wayne Gallman, 4th and inches, stuffed. Huge play from that Michigan defensive line. McCarron not happy. He said, put the ball in my hands in that situation. Travis Feeney trying to give his quarterback the ball back. Huge sack there on 2nd and 20. McCarron going to get it back. 9 minutes to play. And this is where he started to turn things on. Backs up, tries to find a lane, rolling to the near side. Across his body, somebody get open. It's Darius Shepard, the security blanket. And a beautiful play call here from Bruce Gradkowski. Just like they schemed it up. Jake Sutherland with the touchdown. Crucial 2-point attempt here. McCarron going to dance around some more, calling out a receiver, trying to get somebody open, but it falls incomplete. St. Louis led it 9-7 with 7.5 minutes to play. It was Wes Hills running behind the left side of that Michigan offensive line, and now going right. Student body right for Wes Hills, the slippery rock product. What a run for him. St. Louis trying to stop Michigan here. What would they do with Perry? Get juked out of their shoes. What a move from Perry, the Brown Ivy League product. Michigan goes up. Look at this. Perry. Reminds me of Ben DiNucci a little bit, Zook. I'm not going to lie with those wheels. We saw DiNucci as an underrated runner last season. Here's St. Louis. Down 6. McCarron. Marcel Aitman. What a grab on 4th and 10. Extends this ball game. 54 to play. 4th and goal again. AJ right back to Marcel Aitman. Touchdown St. Louis. And just like the San Antonio game last year, they go on top with the 1-point conversion to Jake Sutherland. St. Louis 16, Michigan 15. But like they say with Aaron Rodgers, too much time. A completion from E.J. Perry. And I can't believe they're not trying a Hail Mary. Nope, a 64-yard try. They iced him once he hit it. Second time on the way. Jake, the Earthquake Bates, with an earth-shattering missile to send home St. Louis. The Ford Field faithful could not be happier. A game-winning 64-yard field goal, a spring football record for a kid who had not kicked a field goal since high school. The absolute shocker of the weekend. I was wrong, as well as everybody else. The Michigan Panthers win it 18-16. A.J. McCarron threw it 37 times. Some would say maybe not enough in the first half. Battlehawks didn't reach the end zone until under 8 minutes in this game, and leading 16-15 with 49 seconds to play was just too much time for Michigan in a league where you're going to get pretty good field position on some of these. Bates with a 64-yard field goal was a spring football record. Michigan netted 14 yards per pass completion, and it was 11 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and a sack for Kai Nakua. Panthers, 18. Battlehawks, 16 in our upset special of the week. San Antonio, another home underdog looking to pull things off with Chase Garbers getting his first professional start, and A.J. Smith was staying aggressive on drive 1, converting a 4th and 1 from midfield. Here's another 4th and 3 from the plus 28. They go to Marquez Stevenson, 2 for 2 on 4th down to start for Wade Phillips and the Brahmas. Garbers, 2nd and 14. Swing pass to Anthony McFarland, who's no stranger to the black and yellow. He was a Pittsburgh Steeler, now finds the end zone as a Brahma, opens up the scoring. Jordan Ta'amu was going to come right back here, rolls out on 2nd and 3. Kiki Cutie, a beautiful pass from Ta'amu, but hold the phone, folks. Penalty. An eligible man downfield. DC has to settle for a field goal, 50 yards out, no problem for Matt McCrane. Defense struggled early for DC. Jontre Kirkland was catching the ball, running the ball, and throwing the ball. He gallops in for a touchdown. Now DC down 11. 3rd and 20. Jordan wasn't going to go away. Trying to find some points in the first half to tie Scott here. Big conversion. 3rd and 5 now for Ta'amu. 7 minutes to play in the half. Does it with his legs. Puts DC inside the red zone. Yet again, though, having to settle for field goals was a problem for the defenders all day long. They trail by 8. Give Garbers the ball with just enough time in this prolific offense. He shreds up, but wait, Isaiah Johnson jars it loose. The DC defense does what they're known for, force takeaways. Nice from Johnson, scooped up by DJ Swearinger. You see it again, big hit stick there on Jontre Kirkland. And all of a sudden, DC's back in business. Yet again, Matt McCrane, not taking anything away from McCrane. He was great, 4 for 4 on the day. But you would have loved to see some of those become touchdowns if you were a DC fan, because San Antonio was utilizing the speed of Anthony McFarland all day. Just a minute to go inside of the half. He goes for a big gain there, and that's going to set up complete pandemonium. Destroying was iced. He missed the field goal. They said, the hell with it. We'll go for it. Brad Wing going to find the center. Alex Millette. No, he's not the long snapper. He's the actual center. Thick 6. Spikes that ball to Mars. Look at Brad Wing, the former LSU punter. As a DC fan, I'm speechless. We gave up a touchdown from a punter to a center. Can't have it. 3rd and 10. DC down 8. Jordan going deep. Ty Scott. There again, he led DC in receiving. 4 catches, 87 yards on the day. Knocking on the door. It's Ta'amu. Touchdown. Kiki Cutie. Don't do it to me again. Don't do it to me again. They did it again. DC needs to find a new right tackle. 2 fouls on 1 play for Gene Delancey. Spit in somebody's face. Got a 15-yard penalty. He also had a false start. We'll get to this one later. I didn't like how that one was called. However, Jordan Ta'amu back at it on 2nd and goal is going to get lit up by Bryce Thompson. He would lay motionless on the Alamo Dome turf. Knock the wind straight out of him. So DeAndre Francois going to have to come in, trying to make something happen. And miraculously, Jordan comes right back in after just 1 play on the sideline. And it was not the right move because Darius Phillips was right on top of this one. Phillips off and running, and with just 8 minutes to go in the 4th quarter, this was trouble for DC, who could not find the end zone in 3 different trips. Just so uncharacteristic of that Fred Keiss offense to not be able to punch it in. Credit to Wade Phillips, Will Reed, and that defense. Chase Garbers capitalizes on the turnover, scampers in, makes it 27-12, and that would be the final. Our 2nd straight money line upset. Maybe more people saw this one coming than they did Michigan beating St. Louis. Nonetheless, still a shocker. The shocking stat of the day for me, DC, 44 rush yards. Abram Smith being out is unbelievable how impactful. I can't even go on to say how impactful that was. 3.4 yards a carry, 0 for 3 in the red zone. And for Garbers, the pro now, coming out of Cal, making it work. 19 for 25, 158 yards and 2 touchdowns. Hats off to that Brahmas defense for holding DC out of the end zone. Not a lot of teams did that last year. And the Brahmas with A.J. Smith go 3 for 4 on 4th down conversions. San Antonio makes a statement over my Defenders. Final, Brahmas 27, Defenders 12. And our final game of the weekend was a clash between 2 former USFL squads. Case Cookus opening things up to Dawood Davis on a nice 3rd down conversion. This one being played in Rice Stadium in the city of Houston. Jonathan Adams hooking up with Cookus. They settle for a field goal for Matt Conklin. Memphis goes up 3-0 early. Jarrett Garantano, his first start. Isaiah Henney on a little screen pass here. Gets knocked out and recovered by Christian McFarland. Scoop and score to the house. The Memphis defense showing off. Huge hit here from the Boats. And they go up 9-0 early in this one. Showboats showing out on defense. Case Cookus picking things up here second quarter. What a catch from Vinny Papali. Drags the 2 feet, which is the new rule here in the UFL. Got to get them both down. Memphis off and running with a 15-0 lead. Garantano not going to give up yet. Late in the first half here, finds a first down completion. 55 yards from J.J. Molson. Kickers this weekend, Zook. How about it? Drilling bombs. Pat McAfee would be proud. 15-3, Memphis. Trying to do something late in the first half here. What? Darius Victor, like a bowling ball, bouncing off people. But we go to the third quarter. Memphis up 12. Cookus picked off by Reuben Foster. Snags that one out of midair. Gets a nice little run back. Reuben Foster just dominated on the defensive side of the ball for the Roughnecks. A man amongst boys out there. But it was Cookus, much like Matt Corral on 3rd down, playing very well in those situations, finding Dawood Davis. Teams trade field goals. It's 18-6. Garantano gets rocked. Memphis will pick it up. And at this point, you were thinking that's going to be all she wrote, right? But wait, Cookus and Victor. Victor fumbles, and it's right back to Houston. So wait, this one might end up being a close game. Plenty of time left for Garantano, who sneaks it in from 1 yard out. And all of a sudden, don't look now, folks. It's 18-12. They're going to go for 3. Why not? Cut this to a field goal game. But a nice play here by Kyrie Woods with the pick. He had the big hit that forced the fumble earlier. 18-12, Conklin trying to put it away. Doink! Much like that Birmingham-Arlington over. Off the right upright, but wait. Houston jumped off sides. Special teams in a scramble. Defense holds them again. One last shot for the Roughnecks. They're going to get the ball back with about 30 seconds here, right? Wrong. Isaiah Henney muffs the punt. Memphis gets it back. Showboats survive a scare. They were up 15-0 early. Houston rallies back a bit in this one. I'm sure John DeFilippo, the head coach for the Showboats, was sweating that one out at the end there. But Memphis gets a win here to improve to 1-0 in a game that capped off 4 for 4 on under bets. Case Cookus, 40 passing attempts, 204 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. But the story of the day was the Showboats defense. They held Houston to 174 total yards, which makes them first in the UFL. They had 3 takeaways. Roughnecks, more penalties than they had first downs. That's never a good sign. They had 12 penalties, just 10 first downs, and they ran just 37 plays to Memphis's 63. A final here from H-Town, Showboats 18, Roughnecks 12. Woo! Take a breather. A lot of fun in UFL Week 1, guys, and let me tell you, that atmosphere in Arlington, Texas for our Battle of the Brands tour was for real. Celebrities everywhere. Of course, The Rock in the middle of his WrestleMania build, taking time out of his busy schedule to whoop Cody Rhodes and come to Arlington instead to talk with the media, go on the Fox broadcast, gave another nice speech at the 50-yard line right before the game. Brought his friends with him. Coach Prime showing up amongst a few others. I think Troy Aikman was down on the sidelines, Zook. So big kickoff weekend for the UFL. This is where we were in Arlington, Texas for episode 1 of the Battle of the Brands Tour. I travel the country to witness football's newest rivalry, the XFL versus the USFL. In the XFL corner, the Arlington Renegades. In the USFL corner, the Birmingham Stallions. Welcome to the Battle of the Brands Tour. Get a good look at Choctaw Stadium here. This place opened in the mid-90s and served as the home of the Texas Rangers up until 2019. All right, let's head inside, take a spin around this place. Coming in, this is the first view we're gonna get of the field here. A couple different options down here. You get your first view of the Choctaw Stadium press box here. All right, we made it down to the field. UFL game ball looking pretty good. Hey Marquette, XFL or USFL? Let them know. You know it already. Let's go. We ready for kickoff? Story of the first half was really the Arlington defense. They forced 2 turnovers early on. Birmingham was kind of out of sorts. But towards the end of the half, Matt Corral answers with a 39-yard touchdown pass to Deon Kane. Looked real pretty at the end of the half. Luis Perez also had a big play to Isaiah Winstead on a 51-yard touchdown. We knew this one was going to be tight, guys. 11-11 at the half. Second half update, Birmingham up a couple of scores. It's been all Matt Corral, making throws on the run, just like he did back at Ole Miss. This guy's the real deal. Disappointing day in the second half for the home crowd. You got the drone cam flying around. Another Fox innovation. This one to cash the over. Oh my God. No. The under.
I needed that hit. I needed to be hit like that to all right, now we're playing football.
We had some deep shots, available to us.
A 27-14 win for the Birmingham Stallions, and the USFL goes up 1-0. Not the most impressive stat line from Corral, but he did it a few times with his legs. He shook off an early interception and ultimately was able to lead this offense to a pretty balanced day. We're on to week 2. It's a successful Battle of the Brands Tour week 1. Just remember, there's no such thing as football season. See you next week. A successful Battle of the Brands Tour. It was always fun to get down to UFL HQ in Arlington. And as far as the football game, I'll tell you what, Birmingham has a winning formula, and that is to run the ball and stop the run. I know 183 rushing yards might not pop off the chart at you, but it was by far the highest rushing total of any team of the weekend. They also held Arlington to just 60 yards rushing. And this is why, guys, you can't judge a team out the gate. When it was 11-3 and Perez hit that big pass, I think a lot of fans in that stadium were thinking, yeah, this is it, man. This is the XFL. Big-time clash of champions. We're up 8 early on already. We got 2 turnovers on defense and a huge pass play. But when they went in that locker room, man, and they had that huge pass play for a touchdown before half, you could tell the momentum shifted and things started to get a little quiet around Choctaw Stadium. But, yeah, Birmingham proved right out the gate that they have a winning formula for sure. Speaking of winning formulas, I did not have one in my best bets this week, Zook. 1-2 for me. 1-0 for you. And looks like we're picking up things right where we left off last year, where I struggled to get to 500. This week I fell below it. But you open up 1-0, and I think you have a little slogan. What was it? It was something about
quality over quantity.
Been hearing that all night as we've
Sure
been
have.
for the show. But
quality over quantity.
May I say, we're back to the Arlington Renegades, a team that I did not enjoy backing last year. I dip my toe. I go back in the well this year. And they don't even come close to covering. Maybe that Javonte Payton route late in the fourth quarter could have got me close. Maybe pull it to like 27 to 22 there with a chance to cover late. But Arlington plus 3.5.
You were never going to cover after that touchdown right before half. At that point,
yeah, that was the dagger. That sent a dagger right through the best bet. And Arlington, I'm always backing you. Last year, I had minus 2.5 in the opener. Win by 2. Don't cover for me. So we're back to the Renegades. And St. Louis, a little bit of a different story. I'll definitely be betting St. Louis again. In fact, St. Louis and Arlington, week 2, might be a bounce-back spot in front of the Dome, which we'll be rocking. But, yeah, I mean, you turn on the game in the fourth quarter and you see a totally different ball game than if you missed the first 3. With the way St. Louis was playing in the fourth quarter, you would have thought this was not close.
Sure.
But Michigan battled through the first 3 quarters. And, again,
they did, and I will give you credit on this bet. I didn't hate it. McCarron missed a huge ball, a bomb to Jackson, overthrew him. That right there is a touchdown. Could change the whole complexity of this game. Not a bad bet. They just struggled. Took them too long to get going. But
yeah, just
it's not a bad loss in that thought. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're a play away.
I don't want to say, obviously, it wasn't the right side to be on. Big value on Michigan plus 6.5. You had a money line, I think, cashed out about plus 235. This is another under game. Just like Birmingham Arlington, like you saw in the recap, a doink to cash the under. And we had Boats money line, which seemed to be the popular play of the week. I think everyone piled on to the Boats. I know this was a stay away for you, but yeah, a game that didn't look like it was in question at all. I mean, Houston came out lifeless. They have a lot of injuries. Definitely a team that's going to be a work in progress, and the Boats took advantage of that early, but it's never easy. They never said it would be easy. I had to sweat this one out too. So.
Right, that game got tight at the end.
Yeah.
So now what?
Too close for comfort.
I didn't like it. It was a stay away game for me.
Yeah, I didn't like the fourth quarter from Memphis at all. I thought they had multiple opportunities to put the game away, and I was not impressed with their ground game. Darius Victor was a guy I thought was going to come in and show out as a workhorse. They ran for 34 yards.
Yeah, you got to close that out.
They had like 1.8 yards per carry, Zook. So Memphis gets it done. Not a team I would necessarily look to bet next week against San Antonio. But they might be a home underdog in that one. And take us home. What'd you see from your Stallions that you had to pile on me on Thursday night and say the back-to-back champs? You tried to talk me into it, but I just felt like the value was on the underdog, and I was wrong.
Yeah, you were wrong. Imagine that. I mean,
it's been a tough enough week for me. All right,
I know. Hey,
I go 1-2 on my best bets. I go 1-3 on my straight plays, and the cherry on top, DC. What was that?
I'm gonna pile on because everybody knows by now. If you watch us last year, you already know that if you're gonna follow somebody, you're gonna follow my plays. More successful. The Zook book
has graced us with his betting analysis.
And again, I said earlier, I was super nervous right before half. We got 9 seconds. We hit a bomb.
Yeah.
And at that point, I knew I was comfortable. But not
a lot of things.
I was a little, palms were sweaty.
Yeah, not a lot of things I said on Thursday ended up being correct. But one thing I did get right was about Matt Corral, how he could be one of the most dangerous quarterbacks in the UFL. He showed off that arm, and when Luis Perez had the opportunity to make the same throws, he couldn't do it. And that kind of leads us into Zook and I. We're going to go back and forth and chat about this Birmingham and Arlington game.
Well, let's talk about DFS first.
Oh, yeah, our guy, the People's Gambler. How could I forget, right? We had a DFS segment on Thursday night. We welcomed the People's Gambler to the show. He gave us a player to start, a player to sit, and a guy that a lot of people were sleeping on, maybe a kind of a value play.
He was also sleeping.
Big zero, unfortunately, for Chris Rowland. It was that kind of weekend. But, yeah, we had Matt Corral was the starter for the People's Gambler. He ends up, I think, third of all quarterbacks in DFS with just about 20 points. The sleeper was Wayne Gallman, who was one of the.
No, that was Sidham. Sidham, Wayne.
That's right. Wayne was the Sidham, and the sleeper was Chris Rowland. Chris Rowland did not. He got like 3 targets, but he did not record a reception. Wayne Gallman got stuffed on a 4th and inches near the goal line. Only put up 6.6 points. So ultimately a success there for the People's Gambler for a guy that was one of the top priced running backs coming in a lot of lineups, and he just ends up, I think, 8th or 9th on the running back.
Yeah, not too bad. 2 out of 3 for the boy, you know?
Better than I did. That's for sure. My DFS contest did not look very good. We're not going to share those. Instead, we're going to talk about the weekend that was. This is Zook and I, just raw reactions to what we saw. Birmingham with a 27-14 win, you know by now, over the Arlington Renegades. They cover the 3.5. The under 42.5 was the winning wager. Theme of this game was defense in the first half. 2 turnovers from Birmingham, and, you know, kind of some validation for my best bet at first. Sitting up in the press box thinking, here's an offense with just not an opportunity in 3 weeks to gel enough together. They had a lot of new faces, new starting quarterback. They kind of retooled things up front, new receiving core, and just Skip Holt said it himself, looked out of sync in the first half and gave Arlington some real opportunities. But ultimately the rock was the defense for Birmingham. That was the solid side that you wanted to lean on if you were going to be a Birmingham better to begin with, and they ended up really, really good. Mark Gilbert is a stud. They have a very good defensive line, and Perez can't run, so they consistently got home. I would have liked to see more Lindsey Scott Jr., and I think the reason we didn't is because this game got out of hand in the second half, and they had to throw the ball a lot. So Lindsey Scott was really not an option at that point as more of a running threat. Zook, Birmingham, 183 rushing yards, like we mentioned earlier, 8 for 12 on 3rd downs. Pretty solid day, especially in the second half.
All right, so I got a couple takeaways. First, I want to know your reaction on if Martinez doesn't get hurt, does Matt see the field again?
Yeah, absolutely.
You think so?
I think, well, Coach Holtz mentioned in the post-game presser that he talked to Adrian going into the half, and the leg was just not ready.
Right.
And unless they were down in a dire position where they needed him to make a play, they weren't going to throw him back in there injured.
Gotcha.
I think that the plan was a 2-quarterback system. I think you would have seen even amount of drives if this one went to game plan.
Okay.
But with the injury, they didn't want to risk him coming back in. Matt Corral is the better quarterback. We saw Martinez toss a pick.
That's a no-brainer.
Corral's pick was kind of off the shoulder pad. They're trying to set up a screen. Maybe he threw it a little high. Martinez, that one just sailed on him.
Oh,
when you compare the interceptions. So, but, you know, in this league, Zook, a lot of guys running threats behind a passing threat. You see it in Arlington with Lindsey Scott Jr. You see it again in Birmingham where they try to mix things up.
So, like, my main thing is, especially with Arlington's offense, things that worked very well within the first quarter. Burnett.
Yeah.
Brown. I thought he ran the ball well. I think he needs more carries. Yeah. And I'm putting an official APB out on Sal Cannella.
Yeah. I looked up. He was in my lineup, and I looked up, and he somehow had 9 points. He did some work in the second half, but the first half he was not to be found.
So those are the big things. Like, I think, and I mean, obviously, Perez turned the ball over too much, but that offense is better. Yeah. And this game could have been tighter. But, again, I'll go back to that touchdown right before the first half ended, and that was just key. That was everything.
Yeah, and Coach Stoops said Luis just under duress all day. Not a good look for that Arlington offensive line. We saw a lot of offensive line struggle this weekend. Arlington was one of them. When you have a quarterback like Matt Corral, you're a lot better off because they could not keep him in the pocket. He's scrambling around back there. Underrated mobility from Corral. I heard them saying on the broadcast that, you know, Martinez over Corral as far as running. I mean, maybe, but I don't know. I think Corral is a solid runner. And then you got C.J. Marable and Ricky Person, who, I mean, what a two-headed monster.
Yeah, solid backfield right there, right?
Yeah, you think about 183 yards. They average 5 a carry, right? Against a really solid front seven for Arlington. So, yeah, I'm eating crow a little bit for my Birmingham pick. Zook,
Good,
what's your outlook going forward here for the Stallions?
I don't know. Defense looks solid. Offense is going to get there. I think they're going to be a tough team to beat. I don't want to just jump on the wagon for them. But my opinion is they're going to be tough.
Yeah,
they're going to win 8 games. 8 out of 10.
Yeah, that seems to be the realistic prediction at this point. Again, I just feel like Arlington only 1 sack on the day. That's not going to get you there. And again, just not enough from their playmakers. Burnett did have 5 catches for 36.
Right, and how many were in the first half?
Yeah,
4.
He was the go-to guy.
I think 4 of them were in the first half.
But again, just 3.3 yards a carry.
You got to feed that guy. You got to feed him.
Yeah, you'd like to see Sal Cannella get back out there as well. He actually ended up with 4 catches for 49, but that was late in the too late, much too late in the game.
Right, that's more garbage time.
Yeah, so ultimately, not what I expected from Birmingham and Arlington in this one. I did pick Arlington straight up. I thought this would be a razor-thin margin with either team winning by 1 or 2. And when we landed on 11-11, make a wish, my wish was for this game to go into overtime and Arlington to win it because I wanted that for the crowd, right? I wanted that moment, and it seemed like it would just go back and forth until overtime, honestly.
Right.
But that was not the case. I don't know what happened in that halftime locker room, but Birmingham made the adjustments. Arlington did not. And Stallions are 1-0. They improved to 1-0, and they got a date with Michigan coming up. Arlington is 0-1. It doesn't get easier with a trip to St. Louis next week. Speaking of the Battlehawks, what happened here? Wow. I got to say, I have to give so much credit to the Michigan Panthers. I owe you guys one. I owe you guys one as a team, as a fan base, as anyone who had Michigan plus 6.5. I was pretty heavy on the Battlehawks. I didn't like many full unit plays this week because, again, we're proceeding with caution here, and we don't really know that much, as witnessed this weekend. A lot of favorites lost. And this was the one I was pretty confident on that, like a 35-15 or something we were going to get. And you look up, and St. Louis, goose egg, I mean, through 29 minutes of football. What was that, Zook?
Well, first of all, you got to give credit to that Michigan D line.
Oh, yeah.
They got to AJ a lot in that first half. I think it rushed a few throws. He was not comfortable. It took him until the fourth quarter to get comfortable and actually throw some balls on target. I mean, he was running around. What was that one? Like in the fourth quarter. I mean, he was
backyard football.
He was scurrying around for 7-8 seconds.
He loves that.
I'm sure he does, but
that.
You should not need to be
in
that kind of duress all the time.
Right.
So I think that was huge.
Yeah, 3.5 sacks.
We're talking about
good number for Michigan.
A 64-yarder? I mean,
yeah.
Whew.
Yeah, and AJ talked about the big guys that Michigan has up front. Breland Speaks, Kenny Willekes, some dogs up front. Frank Ginda. They have really good. And Kai Nakua. I mean, shout out the Nakua family. 11 tackles, 1 pick. Nakua did it all. Had a sack as well.
Let me ask you this. I mean, you got that 4th and 1 that got stopped. Gallman went nowhere.
Yeah, and that was what set AJ off. Yeah.
I get that, but you take the points there. You win this game.
Right.
Take the points. We talk about this. How many times did we talk about this NFL? Yeah. And I'm just sitting here screaming at the TV. Take the points. Take the points. Points are a premium. You didn't take them. There's times to be aggressive. I just don't know if that's one of them.
I'll push back because I watched the DC game, and they did. And look what happened. They took the points. You know,
Yeah.
in situations where
Well,
they had 4 field goals.
We'll get to that
We'll get to that
next.
Yeah.
But it's situational. We're talking about situational football,
Right.
and you didn't make the decisions that were supposed to be made, and I think that lost you the game.
Yeah, we talked about who would emerge as the wide receiver 1 for the Battlehawks, and Marcel Aitman had himself a day, 6 catches for 60 yards. I don't want to bury the lead here. What Jake Bates did is nothing short of phenomenal in a spring football setting where you would talk to casuals that ignore this league and make fun of people who enjoy watching spring football and, the play's bad and this and that, and all the people who didn't think the XFL was going to finish the season last year. You would tell them that there was a 64-yard field goal in this game. What would they say? NFL kickers aren't doing that.
No.
Tucker's doing that.
And here's the crazy part. Didn't even make a Sports Center top 10. What's going on there?
The disrespect. I got a nickname. It's Jake the Earthquake Bates. Shook the earth twice. 2 65-yard bombs.
Bangers.
Completely unfazed. I mean,
And
missiles.
Those might have been good from 70.
Yeah, we saw a lot of great kickers in the UFL, and that's a position where in college, you get the whole college kicker thing where you're like, you run college kickers out, you really have no idea what's going to happen. Doesn't seem to be that way in the UFL. They've really shored up the kicking game, had a couple really good kickers that landed NFL contracts from both the XFL and the USFL last year. Listen, Jake Bates went in a Panther, and I think he came out a Lion. Honestly,
he might have.
He,
I got at least two more questions for you on this game.
Boy, that's all I need.
I'm sorry.
Rub it in.
So, I'm not trying to rub it in. I want to know. One take I had, St. Louis isn't stopping the run situationally. They got gashed big time gashes, right? First downs. How's Sutherland making more catches than Butler?
Yeah, Sutherland's a go-to guy.
I mean, he played well. I'm not taking anything away from the guy.
Right.
But Butler is a monster. He's not catching any balls. Where are his stats? Do you know?
Yeah, 2 catches for 23. I see here is all he had,
and last
3 targets only.
Yeah, 3 targets. Yeah. That's crazy. I mean, he was go-to last year.
Right.
Last question. When St. Louis finally ties it at 15, they go for 1 and they take the lead. I don't hate it. I'm not knocking the decision. But I want to know, in that situation, do you go for 3?
3. Well,
because here's the deal. No matter what, if you get the 3, the best they can do without a touchdown is tie you. Right? You already, I know hindsight's 20/20, but you're already giving up a 64-yarder. You lose.
Right.
So.
Yeah, you wonder too, like, along those lines.
Nobody's talking about this.
What kind of confidence did Anthony Becht have in AJ in a potential overtime? Probably pretty high. I mean, those are going to be alternating shootout-style plays from the 5, a place where the Battlehawks pass game is pretty good. They have good play calls for the red zone. You saw them score on one with Jake Sutherland. They scored on another one with Marcel Aitman.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, the worse you do, you don't get it. It's 15-15.
I mean, it takes balls to do it. But is it worth it?
I don't know, because it's such a low – I mean, you saw Seattle miss about
or like
50 of them last
22% last year or something like that.
Until Jim Haslett finally talked some sense into old June Jones.
Oh, he didn't talk any sense to him. He just said, you're not doing that anymore. You're going for 2, son.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you go for 3. I don't know if you go for 1. You definitely don't go for 2. Yeah, it's all up in the air. But like Wes Hills, you were talking about the run game a little bit. I wanted to touch on that. 11 carries for 85 yards. Big-time game. 7.7 yards a carry. Had 2 huge runs late in this game to ice it. E.J. Perry can run. What do you think of that Ben DiNucci comparison? Because Perry runs for 2 touchdowns, and a lot of those were DiNucci-esque where he drops back, and then he just doesn't find anybody open, and he's got a hole right up the middle and can make some people miss.
Yeah, he got a little weaselly. We'll call it Mr. Weaselly.
Not a guy you expect to be out there making linebackers miss, right?
Not a chance.
And that was Danucci last year.
Not
so.
too bad, though. I liked it. I liked him in the scramble.
Yeah, he could run the ball. Tossed a couple of picks, but the Battlehawks really couldn't capitalize on the turnovers. We talked about, the secondary giving up a lot of big plays for St. Louis last year, and seems to be the case yet again. They had one fall into their lap, that intercept. I mean, you think about that interception that Quinterio Cole ended up, I mean, he didn't even catch the ball. It literally landed in his lap. He doesn't make that play. Michigan's right there knocking on the door again.
They're getting 3, and you're right. I brought up earlier about AJ overthrowing Jackson.
Yeah.
So, yeah, those 2 plays might kind of wash.
Interested to see how they
Could
use
be touchdown
Jackson.
either way.
They brought Jackson on a jet sweep. I saw that was pretty crafty way to use him. See, I don't know if Ja'Cour Pearson missing is necessarily the answer here. No, he's not gonna win this game for St. Louis. I don't think.
You don't know that.
Yeah, but I feel like the defense, especially late in this game when you have 49 seconds.
You don't think he's expanding that field and making it easier?
I just feel like this was a team that was not up to game speed. They weren't ready to play. For whatever reason, sometimes it takes guys in actual game speed, and Michigan uglied this up. And you can kind of do that with do the Battlehawks play down to their competition? Because,
I don't know,
San
man.
Antonio last year, not the best team.
I mean, they absolutely took Orlando behind the woodshed last game of the season.
See, and that's what we've been evaluating as kind of the measuring stick, and I'm not so sure that's totally different scenario. Playoffs on the line, got to score 1 million points.
I know, but
yeah.
I just feel like
I even said going into this game on Thursday, the over was probably not in the cards for me because you didn't know about the Michigan offense, and that ended up being kind of true. But really, we didn't know about either offense. Ended up both being question marks.
Oh, that's tough though, because if I obviously we talk away, I stay away from the totals, right?
Yeah.
But if there was an over I was going to take, it would have been this one.
Right.
Because I'm looking at the fact that St. Louis could put up 30 to 35 themselves.
Yeah.
Michigan doesn't have to put up that much.
Right.
I would have been wrong. I'm glad I didn't bet it. That's why I stay away.
Yeah, I was thinking 4 or 5 touchdown day from AJ, but he tossed a couple late in this game, and ultimately it just was not enough. Let's hear from AJ while we're talking about this one on his thoughts on this loss.
They played us a lot more zone than what we thought they had shown in the past. That's the toughest thing about week 1, right, is you don't have any film on them. So all you can go off of is their previous games, which were last year. Listen, they make a 64-yard field goal. Hats off to them. That's a hell of a kick. I thought, when we needed it most, offense put drives together. But we made the plays when we had to, and we just got to be better next week.
That was quarterback A.J. McCarron, who started 0-1. He's back in the Dome next week against Arlington. Those were your Saturday games. Oh, boy.
To my favorite game?
Hold on, I need a drink. Water.
Game 3, to my favorite game of the weekend.
I promise this isn't vodka.
Should
be, yeah.
Should be.
So, Brahmas 27, Defenders 12. Listen, I flipped this one on. I didn't feel like I was watching the UFL. I felt like I was watching the Dean Blandino show. And I know that everyone, you're whining. Yeah.
I'm on that side.
I'm not whining. Listen, what are we doing on the ESPN broadcast? Look at what Fox did with Mike Pereira. When you bring him in, when you involve him, it's for a reason. With Blandino, it's just like open mic the entire game. And I understand the value that might bring to a broadcast that you can't get in the NFL or college. But it opens up the door for some problems and some questions. One of them being, if you're Dean and Sam Acho, for example, a color commentator calling this game, mentions he disagrees with a call. He's going to go to Dean. He's going to say, well, we got the expert. Dean, what do you think? They do this in the NFL sometimes as well. Dean gives his opinion. He says, and this actually happened on a neutral zone infraction that they called that San Antonio was upset about. This was not the one that you're thinking of, the touchdown that got reversed. This was before that. It was a neutral zone infraction that was called on San Antonio, and Sam Acho thought it was a false start. Dean agreed. And Sam said, well, why didn't, if Coach Wade challenged that, what do you think would have happened? And Dean said, I don't think what would have happened. I know what would have happened because I make the decision, and it would have been overturned. It was not a neutral zone infraction. The offensive lineman moved. So then Sam says, so is that a reviewable play? Dean says, nope, not reviewable. And that's all we get. 10 minutes later, chaos ensues. We have Gene DeLance, who, quite frankly, might be looking for a new job after this one. And it wasn't just the two penalties with the spitting and the false start. It was before that. He was just out of sorts, trying to gel with this offensive line, had a few other penalties early on. The Gene DeLance gets an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty after the touchdown, right? So DC's still going to score. They're talking to Reggie live about, okay, you're going to get it from the 17-yard line to go for one. They're having this conversation. Meanwhile, on the opposite sideline, Wade Phillips is talking about, should we challenge a false start? So DeLance has been ejected for spitting, and they're trying to get him for a false start. Context. Dean Blandino said 10 minutes ago, it's not a reviewable play. So the rebuttal, if you challenge something with the super challenge, automatically it becomes reviewable. You could challenge anything, right? But you can't review anything. Why can't you review everything, but you can challenge everything? Like, make this make sense to me, Zook.
You're on the right path. I mean, I don't think I'm not sticking up for Dean at all. Let me get that straight. Okay. Last year, he was on my naughty list, right? But here's the thing. He has a list of things in front of him that he is allowed to actually interject on without a challenge being done. So everybody wants to sit there and say, let me put me on screen. Everybody wants to sit there and say that the transparency of all this is so great. But they're missing a big key part on the transparency of what he is allowed to do and what he's not allowed to do. The super challenge will take over everything else. You can challenge anything. You could challenge if the guy didn't have his cleat on properly, right? But Dean is only allowed in certain situations to interject on certain scenarios. Why? I don't have an answer for that. But that's the issue. That's what everybody's missing. That's what you're missing. And does it make sense? No, I absolutely agree with you. He should be able to say no. That's it.
We're going to look at this.
He moved. I'm looking at it. I'm changing it. But they're not allowing him to. And none of that is communicated with the actual fans.
Yeah, and let me be clear. It was a false start on the one that got called back. Gene DeLance, that's on him. Toss for spitting, and then he gets false start. Literally gets 20 yards worth of penalties and a touchdown called back in like a matter of seconds. DC's going to have to find a new right tackle, or that's a guy, maybe you sit him for a week, run him, and then maybe he's back. I like give people second chances. That's a tough one to climb out of for Gene. But I guess my problem with Blandino today is don't say it's non-reviewable and then review it for us. If it's non-reviewable, don't talk about it, because we're not going to get it changed, right? So you're reviewing a play for the live audience. You're reviewing a play for your play-by-play and your color commentary booth, but you're not changing the call. So you're just confusing people on what's going on, and they need to know when to interject with Dean. it's becoming too much. It's becoming the Dean Blandino show, in my opinion.
So for me, the problem is when you're looking at the NFL, as the rules are going on and the actual officials are making a decision on things. Now you bring in Mike Pereira and you say, hey, if you were officiating, what would you do? And then he'll go through it with you, right? But you're not actually talking to the real officials, where I feel like the crew has a little bit of an impact. They're like, hey, that guy moved. What do you do now? You don't have that. So I feel like even though I like the transparency of it and you get to hear what's going on, I don't think the broadcasters should be able to communicate with the actual official himself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think that's where the separation
There's
comes.
big differences in Fox and ESPN. Fox is not afraid to cut people off. They're not afraid to kill mics when they need to.
Right.
ESPN does leave it wide open, and I'm not saying which one I favor more. I think both broadcasts are solid. Mike Monaco for ESPN was solid today. Anyway, that's enough about Blandino, because I don't want to turn this into the Dean Blandino show. DC was not good enough today. Listen, I'll be the first one to admit that. What Chase Garbers and AJ Smith did offensively in the first half was nothing short of impressive, with getting their playmakers in space. Anthony McFarland, John Trey Kirkland, they stayed aggressive on fourth down. They go for one on the first drive from midfield, 4th and 1. They get farther down the field. They go for a 4th and 3. They get it to Marquez Stevenson. So really, when I look at this one, it was just too many field goals. DC, every time they draw 0 for 3 in red zone opportunities. They did not run the ball. 44 rush yards? Are you kidding me? I knew Jordan was going to have to shoulder a lot of this load, but that's unacceptable. Zook, we came in this season and I said the O-line was a strength. I mean it.
Not so much.
I don't know if, it's just DC, though. I don't know if any offensive line is a strength right now. Michigan's actually looked pretty good, believe it or not. Birmingham paved the way for 183 rush yards, but, these offensive lines are having problems.
Well, it's easy to pin your ears back and start running at people.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening. And we already know that the defenses are going to win in week 1.
Especially early, yeah.
I want to talk about, if I get to steer the conversation, I want to talk about A.J. Smith's aggressiveness and Reggie Barlow's non-aggressiveness. Because to me, that's 1-1 in the game. Yeah. You're looking at that first drive. What do you got? A 4th and 1. You got a 4th and 3. They go for it on their own side of the field. Right. And then you got DC settling for field goals 4 times. And they also had some 4th and 1s and 4th and 2s, and they chose not to go for them. Yeah. And so you brought this up earlier. Big pet peeve of mine is I want you to get the points when you can get them. But when the other offensive coordinator is playing as aggressive as AJ, sometimes you have to match it.
Yeah,
and they didn't.
We even got some insight, which is a cool thing with ESPN, from Reggie Barlow on that first 4th down.
Yeah, field position.
He said, "Well, with what they're doing to us, we might as well play field position."
And it worked. It did work.
I'm not questioning his coaching, but I am saying that, and I think Reggie would agree. DC was not prepared. The coaches were not prepared properly. The players were not ready to go. The defense surrendered 14 points right off the bat and had to climb out of a hole. Jordan made some throws, converted some big 3rd downs, but this was Chase Garbers, and this was a guy that I was pretty surprised started over Quentin Dormady coming in. But I think I can see where A.J. Smith is going with this. And last year, he had Brandon Silvers, he had Cole McDonald.
Sure.
This is an upgrade at the position.
And I want to say,
running back as well.
Sunglasses off on the sideline.
Yeah, he's on the sideline this year.
He don't need sunglasses. He's in a dome.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
He's not in a dome.
Oh, you should have seen his tweets after. Just phenomenal content from AJ.
He's
absolutely
one of the best
spring football
sideline
coaches that we have, and I'm sure he'll take over for Wade Phillips in San Antonio soon enough.
But I think that's huge, not being in the press box.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
I begged for that at the end of last year.
Right.
Remember?
You wonder what went into that. I'd like to get AJ on the show and ask him.
Sure.
What went into that decision? But You're right. It is. It's conservative versus aggressive. And to me, we talk about the turning points in these games. Birmingham, Arlington, the big touchdown before half. St. Louis, Michigan, the sacks. AJ not being able to have enough time. In this one, you have Destroying out there who talk about pressure, right? Like, probably knew he was going to get iced. End of the half. Came in. Didn't really kick much before this, like has had a long break from his UCF days. And then you chronicle it with like you got all these subscribers who are like counting on you to deliver in this big moment.
Right. And
it turns out Barlow saved him. Reggie Barlow ices him.
No,
He misses the field goal that would have counted. And instead, Peyton Pardee, the special teams coordinator, gets with AJ Smith, and they draw something up that only AJ and Peyton could draw up there.
This one's tough.
No idea.
I actually drove right to Home Depot and bought a wheelbarrow for his nuts.
We had
to call that? I mean, seriously.
Yeah, you said Big Dick Nick in the last show. We had what? We had Big Rake Jake making a 64-yard. Now we have the wheelbarrow for AJ, and you're right.
You ever see that meme? You know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
I go online, Zuck.
I'm gonna.
I might not after tonight. I mean, I'm getting hell, and I
Good.
probably deserve it.
You do. You do.
Let me say this: DC's not overrated. Let's pump the brakes here for a second.
Sure, it's week 1.
This was the prime matchup of the week when it came to, like, just battling, like Jordan trying to get the team back in it. You had the DC receivers making some big plays when they had to, but San Antonio just kept answering. Even when Jordan got hit, came back in. Like, to his toughness. Like,
right.
He did against Seattle last year. Went down, just popped right back into the game.
Something that me and you talked about before we got on air was that's pretty soon. Should he have been back in there?
Well, yeah.
I guess we won't know.
That's another hindsight
really know.
2020 thing. And Jordan did like kind of own up to that in the post-game press conference where he said, maybe it was a little too early, but I wanted to help my team win. And I think going back, I want him on the field over DeAndre Francois for sure, but, I don't know the situation. So
yeah, but for player safety, that's not really his decision.
He said he got the wind knocked out of him. That's what he called it, but you don't really know. So
well, he was down for a while.
Yeah, for sure. It was a big hit by Bryce Thompson, who actually got flagged for a 15-yard for the gravedigger signal. That's what they said. They said that he gave the gravedigger. So
which was what, taunting, right?
They gave him a taunting foul.
Yeah, okay.
It was just complete chaos. Big pick by Darius Phillips, runs it inside the DC 5, and Chase Garbers scrambles in for a touchdown. Garbers 3 touchdowns on the day, 2 through the air, 1 on the ground. You couldn't have asked for more from the young kid out of California.
Look good.
And, man, John Trey Kirkland. The league has a problem on their hands with this guy.
Absolutely.
The ways they use him to get him in space. He threw a pass on the second play from scrimmage. Again, something I said on Thursday might happen.
There's that wheelbarrow again.
He did fumble. A pretty big hit from Isaiah Johnson. That could have swung the momentum. But
yeah, but that was on Garbers. He let him right into that hit.
Right.
That's
Can't do that. That's a young quarterback making.
That's not Kirkland's fault.
But the best passer on the day out of Jordan Ta'amu and Chase Garbers was Brad Wing. 1 for 1 for 40 yards and a touchdown. His quarterback rating was 766.
It should have been.
And the best receiver of the day was center
55. Number 55.
1 catch for 40 yards and a touchdown.
And number 1 in your hearts. Oh, wait, my bad.
You know how much it pains me that I can't remove myself from this DC delusion where I can't enjoy this stuff. I can't enjoy it. This is my team getting embarrassed on national television. Grandma's around the table on Easter Sunday, and she's saying, 55? Those players with that number don't really catch the ball.
That's right. Was he a linebacker?
Yeah, that was grandma around the country. All the grandmas were sitting at Easter Sunday thinking, what was that?
Well,
and, I don't have an explanation, Grandma.
You actually get to watch your team play, so I don't want to hear it.
I was on my way back from Texas, and maybe I should have stayed down there and gone to the Alamo Dome and rallied the troops. But on a more serious note, things to fix for DC. Run game is the priority. Coaching needs to be tighter. Got to be better across the board. And I think aggressiveness, not just from coaches, but from players as well. I know it's tough, but if you're Jordan, maybe sometimes you say, let's run up to the line and at least try to maybe get them off sides. Don't come off the field. But it's tough when you got a coach yelling punt, field goal. You know, sometimes can't take that one in your own hands. But San Antonio shooting up the boards for stock. They came in as a 14-1 favorite to win the championship. They were also 10-1 to win the XFL conference before the season. They start out 1-0. Is this a sign to things to come?
No.
I don't
Week
think.
one.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this.
Take a breath.
We are gonna have a group of 6-4 and 5-5 teams. In fact, I'll say it tonight on the final day of March. We're gonna have 6 teams that are either 6-4 or 5-5.
Oh no.
We're
you
gonna
know,
have.
You know what that means?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Don't say it.
Playoff Excel spreadsheet.
Not doing it. So it broke me last.
Well, we're
year.
going to go to like 8 tiebreakers this year.
It
That's what you're predicting.
I don't have it in me. It broke me.
I'm
going to the Dean Blandino show for that one. He's gonna have to figure it out. But no, I think that's my sentiment coming out of week one, is that any given Saturday or Sunday in this league, to me, Birmingham did sort of separate themselves, and I think they can only get better from the performance on Saturday. Houston, long way to go, and we'll get into them here quickly, but between D.C., St. Louis, San Antonio, Michigan, Memphis, Arlington, that's 6 teams, and I think they're going to be fighting for one playoff spot, maybe 2.
Lots of parity.
Right, so that'll be interesting to see. We did have one more game to get into. Not too much to touch on in this one other than Memphis, great execution out of the gate. They did it on offense. They did it on defense. This was your stay away. I added Memphis kind of late. It was because I heard some things about the Houston defensive line that they ended up being pretty banged up, and they also didn't have their starting running back. So it's kind of an injury play. But it looked like more than that. It looked like even if maybe Houston did have those guys, it would still end up 15-0 at the beginning of the game.
Maybe. I mean, I think Cookus looked real poised in the beginning of the game.
Right.
Really did. I thought Houston, even though they were missing guys, I thought the Houston D-line did well.
Yeah. Reuben Foster's a dog, man. Wow.
That secondary needs help.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to, right? Secondary needs help.
Yeah, there was a lot of good receivers on that Memphis roster, and Cookus, he's the prototype, right? 6'4", 205, NFL frame, working with John DeFilippo, who's coached a ton of NFL quarterbacks. DeFilippo actually made a comment earlier this week that he'll never, and they said this on the broadcast, he'll never again play with a quarterback who can't scramble.
Right.
I think Stoops can kind of get frustrated at times with Luis and his inability to get out of the pocket.
Yeah, but if you listen to that broadcast, they said he leaned up.
Yeah, well, he's trying, right? You know,
he's leaned up
Luis
so he
is
could.
absolutely doing his absolute best to be able to be more fleet-footed. But yeah, I mean, Cookus moves around well. He's a pocket passer that kind of reminds me of a guy who can get out if he needs to, get the first down, or he can drop back and do it on a 6-step drop.
Sure.
He's dynamic, and
he looked good.
Overall on Memphis, I'm still a little scared about their inability to put this away. I feel like Houston was lifeless.
Right.
It could have been 24-0 at that point. They took their foot off the gas. They had a couple turnovers. They couldn't put them away. They end up in a 4th and 20 situation with the game on the line. Now they got a punt.
Yeah, and you're a muffed punt away from not knowing what happens.
They definitely knew they were the better team, and it showed.
But don't forget to give Houston's defense a little bit of credit there. Yeah. I think they second half adjustments were key.
Yeah, to keep a minute, and even Garantano, I know he was upset about. Apparently, Memphis was barking out the cadence, which is illegal. But things in this league are going to go unnoticed. AJ talked about it last year that if guys can get away with things like DC was kind of notorious for this, taking an extra jab after the whistle. If they can get away with it, they're not going to stop doing it until the officials call it and penalize them.
Right, or spitting on guys.
Well, we had the nut tap last year. We had the water bottle. Squirted the official with a water bottle from a Janae Harris. Now we got the spit flying out of the mouth of Gene DeLance, who, man, I don't know. It's so hard to find offensive linemen. And you would like to say, okay, man, you had your shot, like next man up. That was inexcusable, but what do? You can't afford to lose a guy like that if you're DC. That's your starting right tackle after your starting right tackle retired last season. Yeah, 44 rush yards is not going to cut it, man. I can't believe it. I thought Cam Harris, and, you know, it's probably not even on Cam Harris. I figured, like, Abram Smith could be replaced, but the scheme was what did it, not the player, right? But maybe that's not the case. Maybe I didn't give enough credit to Abram Smith. What else we got tonight, Zook? Anything else you want to add? Oh, here we go. Let's just run through it. Our poll, I'm going to get pushed back for this one. It's early, really tough. Let me add, this is a power ranking. Okay? So this is the teams that I believe would be favored on a neutral field right now if we played the games. Birmingham's at 1. San Antonio at 2. 3, 4, 5, I could not figure out. I knew if I put Michigan at 4 or 5, I was going to get crap for it because they are 1-0 versus the two teams. But 3, 4, 5 is all picks. Flip a coin. I think Michigan DC is a coin flip. I think St. Louis will probably beat Michigan again, or beat Michigan if they played them again. That's hard to figure out. Arlington has an opportunity to definitely get higher than 6 if they can figure it out offensively. People are putting Memphis as high as 2 or 3. Give me another week. Let me see him against San Antonio. 7 in this league is not 7 in the XFL or USFL last year. 7 is actually a respectable ranking when you consider the talent in this league and a lot of teams look like. So that's not a knock on Memphis. It's just they played the worst team in the league, which currently, without their key pieces and without really any answers on the offensive side of the ball, is the Houston Roughnecks. Maybe have the Brahmas a little too high and the Showboats too low. Guess we'll find out next week. But as far as I know, DC, Arlington, Memphis, Michigan, St. Louis, even throw in San Antonio. Whew, is that going to be a playoff battle this year as we get down the line? Before you head out, drop us a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel. We're going to be doing these every Sunday night where we'll run through the highlights NFL primetime style. Then Zook and I will take a break. We'll recap the tour. And then we'll come and just talk about the UFL week in review and our takeaways from everything. I know tonight sounded a lot about whining about DC, and hopefully we bounce back. Audi Field next week, baby. We're back. We'll never lose in Audi Field. You can pencil 5 wins in at least. If you have DC going 5-5 this year, at least they're going to win all their home games. I still think the defenders can be better. Hold out hope. Let them get better in practice, and we'll be all right. For the producer, director, and owner of Studio Z, Chris Zook, I'm Matty Fresh. Happy Easter Sunday. And don't forget, there is no such thing as football season. We'll see you Thursday night.